Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Pelvic Health and Fitness Podcast. Today, we are honored to welcome our friend and colleague, Wanjira Njenga. Wanjira is a menopause and pelvic floor coach. She helps women navigate menopause with strength training, mobility, nutrition, and mindset. Wanjira has completed a number of trainings and upgrades in the fields of yoga, yoga therapy, movement, and fitness. This also includes massage therapy, reflexology, and more recently became a holistic core restore coach, Pelvic and Core Health, and Peri post-menopause women's health coach. She is also trained as a functional range conditioning movement specialist. Wow, you are up to a lot, Wanjira. Wanjira is passionate about helping women reclaim their best physical, mental, and emotional selves and enjoy good functional health for life. She has combined all of her training in yoga, women's health, and peri post-menopause to offer services that keep women 45 years and over strong, fit, and injury-free as they journey through all stages of their life. I love that. Welcome, Wanjira. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Could you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and what got you into the world of women's health and fitness, and then led to your focus on menopause?
Yes, I had already been working as a massage therapist and a fitness trainer, strength coach, and I was thrown into menopause by surgery. And I realized, oh, I know nothing about this. And so I thought, well, I better find out very quickly what happens and why, because for me it was very fast. There was no progression and nobody had told me about it. So I started kind of researching and came upon an institute in the UK, Borough Education, and they train women for, specifically for helping menopausal women. They call it third age in the UK, helping menopausal women. And I started off with the pelvic floor health coaching because that was the big area where my clients who are already my students in yoga, they were already my strength training clients, were having problems. They were saying, God, my pelvis is really acting up, my pelvic floor, I don't know what to do, I'm having issues. And then getting into the menopause. So that's how I came upon that area while I was already working as a fitness coach and a strength training coach. Yeah.
It's so interesting that you can have these big surgeries, and they probably said something to you along the lines of, oh, you'll be menopausal, but then that's it. Like, there's no education or what you can expect or when you should check in with the doctor if it is different. I think it's a lot with, I had a cesarean birth follow-up last week, and they hadn't even told this woman that she really shouldn't be lifting her toddler and her 6-year-old. And it's just so crazy that these large surgeries can happen that have these biopsychosocial physical effects, and yet you get, a sentence, hey, you might be in menopause now.
You might be in menopause now. And I think there's a huge gap between, what happens to us and what the doctors expect us to know. And I don't know who they expect to be in between to be giving us that information. Or even though I even wonder, do they even think about it? That, there might be some more information that this woman needs. I don't know. Yeah.
Mm.
So Wanjira, so Dayna and I are younger women, and
yes.
Obviously menopause is in our future. And we chatted just before we started recording here how, you don't know what you don't know. So even with pelvic health, Dayna and I didn't really get into this world until later on. Can you tell us, Dayna and I and our listeners, what is menopause? What happens at menopause? Like, what are some symptoms we might start noticing? And when do those symptoms come on for most people?
Yeah, so menopause just means the end of menses. Meno, coming from the Greek origin, means the menses, and then end, pause, which is the end of menses. And a woman is said to be in menopause after 12 consecutive months of not having her period. So that the anniversary of your not having periods for 12 months, that you're officially in menopause. And this, you're officially in menopause one day, the next day you're postmenopause, or menopause is just one day. That's the surprising thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So the word menopause is the umbrella word for if you're in perimenopause while you're still having your periods, but kind of transitioning to menopause. 12 months, on the anniversary of 12 months after you have not had periods for 12 months, then you're officially now postmenopause, or the next day. That's it. So, and every woman is different, but most perimenopausal symptoms, peri meaning close to menopause, can start as early as age 35. Some women will notice already changes, yes, beginning. And one of the big changes that many women notice is in their periods. Their periods become irregular, they get heavy, they get erratic. And the periods, I normally say, is the very first sign to watch for. Has anything changed in your periods? Because if you don't have any other issues like endometriosis, periods are normally very regular, same amount, same time. But when they begin to change, that's one clue for perimenopause. And then some women might get things like hot flashes even as early as the age of 40, night sweats. There's the dreaded weight gain that menopause is said to bring, but it doesn't bring. We'll talk about that later. That's a false, that's a myth. Menopause doesn't cause weight gain. And mood changes, depression. So those symptoms can start as early as 35 and can go all the way to 65. Now, the average woman gets into menopause at around age 51. That's when most women get into menopause, 51. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And by into menopause, again, just to clarify, so it's been 12 months since their last menstrual period.
Yes. Yeah. 12 months. Once you've gone officially 12 months, no period, then they say, yeah, you're officially into menopause now. And, some women will go to 11 months and they'll think, woohoo, menopause. And then, oh, here I come.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I know women who've gone all the way to the 11th month and they're like thinking, I mean, officially almost in menopause, and then, oops, surprise, here it comes. Now, the other way that you could get into menopause is through surgery, what they call surgical menopause. And there's two ways. If they remove the ovaries, then you're in menopause. As soon as the doctor gets out of what he's removing, you're officially in menopause, if the ovaries are removed. Most doctors, if there's no problem with the ovaries, will leave the ovaries. But what women will notice is that even if you have a hysterectomy and they left the ovaries, within 2 to 3 years, you get into menopause, because the ovaries they're not doing anything. So I think the body just realizes, well, I might as well just move into the next stage. So most people who still have their ovaries, within 2 to 3 years, they will get into full-blown menopause. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm.
I'm so glad that you clarified perimenopause, because again, I work primarily with a postpartum population. I do see a proportion of my caseload is perimenopause or menopausal, postmenopausal, anywhere
Yes.
on that spectrum. But when I'm asking about their cycles, often people who are having children a little bit later, so whether it's a first or subsequent, are just attributing their changes in their cycle purely to being postpartum. But it's interesting that it could be perimenopause as well.
Yes, it could be perimenopause as well, because what they used to call it, I hated that word, they used to call it geriatric pregnancy.
Yeah, they still
that
do.
was a horrible one.
That was on my chart. I had my second daughter at age 35, and on my chart it said geriatric pregnancy. I was like, are you kidding me?
Are you kidding
Language
me?
matters. Language matters. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now they're calling it advanced pregnancy. And so, some people who are advanced pregnancy women find themselves in that no man's land. Is it postpartum or is it perimenopause? And unfortunately, there's no test to do. You can't do a test for menopause because the hormones are fluctuating so much that 1 month your hormones are one direction, the other month they're the other way. So they can't really do much testing at that time. There's no test for menopause.
No, that's interesting. I thought there would be.
No, there is no test for menopause. The doctors could do tests to see if something else is acting up. If a woman comes and says, look, I'm so tired, this is happening, am I in menopause? The doctor might say, could be your thyroid. So let's check the thyroid. They can do tests to check other things to eliminate, but there is no test that says, yes, you're officially in menopause. There's no test for that.
Oh,
No
interesting.
litmus test.
Yeah.
Mm.
No litmus test like pink.
You, congratulations.
No, official. Yeah.
So speaking of hormones, Wanjira, what is actually happening with our hormone levels when we're entering into perimenopause and then menopause?
Yeah. So officially what's happening is the three major players are estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone. Now, estrogen and progesterone are the ones that go down, shooting down very quickly, especially estrogen. Testosterone stays a little bit higher because it's not produced by the ovaries, it's produced by the adrenal glands. So it might coast for a while before it comes down. The biggest one that comes down is estrogen and progesterone. And when those ones come down, then I normally like to say that those two are the shield and armor, because they protect us from everything. Estrogen protects your muscles, it protects your joints, it protects, the brain. Progesterone is the one that gives us the mood swings. When it goes down, we have those mood swings. It protects also our muscles and our joints. So those are the two key players. But the interesting part that most women don't know is that all the other hormones, insulin, cortisol, human growth hormone, are also all changing. They are all changing, not at the same rate. And because we don't know so much about them, I mean, the average woman doesn't know what human growth hormone is. So they don't notice anything. And when it comes to cortisol, okay, you have a little bit more of cortisol, but we also don't know that. Many people don't even know what that does. Insulin is another one that really changes with menopause, and they all kind of play against each other. It's an orchestra. The hormones are just an orchestra. This one goes down, this one has to come up, and they have to have this harmonious interaction between them. So those are the hormones that are going down. But unfortunately, what most doctors think of is estrogen and progesterone, while the others are also having a part in it. Yeah.
Wow. I don't know about you, Rhonda, but I've taken a few classes and certifications in my time, and I didn't know those other hormones were involved.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Yeah.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, they are involved. They are involved. And that's why one of the biggest things that happens in menopause, especially when people get to post-menopause, is blood sugar problems.
Mm.
And that's when you start seeing women being diagnosed with diabetes, pre-diabetes, metabolic syndrome. And it's because of the insulin, because insulin is changing too.
Interesting.
And cortisol levels are also acting on that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And does that bring us back to, you said it was a myth that weight gain is it is part of menopause?
Yeah, it's a myth. Weight gain doesn't happen because of menopause. Menopause doesn't bring weight gain. What happens is when you get into menopause, then you're having hot flashes, you're having night sweats. So that means you're not sleeping. When you don't sleep, guess what happens? Your ghrelin, ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, goes up. Leptin, which is the hormone that tells you to stop eating, goes down. And when you're not sleeping, your joints are hurting, so you don't exercise as much as you need to exercise. You don't move as much because those hormones are going down. Moods are also shifting, so people don't feel like going out to work. It's all the things that accompany menopause that will lead to weight gain. And we tend to think that that's what is causing, menopause is causing weight gain. So it's not as direct as that once you're in menopause, weight gain is inevitable. The only one thing that changes, that estrogen changes, is where you store your fat. That will change. As soon as women get into menopause now, if you get fat, it's stored around the middle. That changes. While when you're in perimenopause, it stores around the hips and the thighs, which is not very dangerous. But then this weight that we create around the muffin top, that changes with menopause. It changes where you're storing weight.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yes, I'm learning so much, Wanjira, already.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So there's so much people can do. And I think for women getting that menopause doesn't mean I will gain weight, but other things can bring in the weight gain. So I should watch those other things. I think it's good for women to know that.
Yes.
For
Yeah,
sure.
Then they don't feel powerless.
Right. There's certain things out of our control, but there are certain things in our control.
Yes. Yeah.
So why is it so important for women to strength train, and how does that impact menopause?
Because all the things that have been affected, our muscles, our joints, our bones, our moods, our insulin levels are all getting affected. If you look at the common denominator, what can really help us control all those things, it's gaining more muscle. When you gain more muscle, you protect your joints. When you gain lean muscle, you protect your metabolism. When you gain lean muscle, your mood is better. When you gain lean muscle, you can mitigate blood sugar. You can help the insulin. So the common denominator in all that is strength training. And I wish doctors told people that it's not simple, but I wish it was that clear, that, you know what, this is the time to really build your strength, to really build your muscle. The other thing that happens is that as we get into menopause and estrogen goes down, estrogen, which is a muscle protector, we lose all sorts of muscle strength. We lose the power muscles, start to get weak. The strength muscles start to get weak. And every other muscle fiber in the body gets weak, including the pelvic floor.
Yeah, makes sense.
Including the pelvic floor. And that's why the women in menopause are the same one going to their doctors with urine incontinence.
Yeah.
Because what the doctors don't realize and don't tell people is that your pelvic floor is a muscle like any other muscle.
Yeah.
It's not built out of any other extra equipment from somewhere. It's the same muscle. It's the same muscle. So I think telling women strength training is the key to help control the things that you can, because there's so many other things that are going on that you can't control, but you can control that one thing. You can get up and lift your weights and progress with your weights and build lean muscle mass, because that's the best thing that will happen to you.
Love it.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
I imagine too, you mentioned muscle. Does it impact our bone health too? Because I know, as we get older, our risk for osteopenia and osteoporosis goes up, and strength training is so important for that. Does that pair up with menopause as well? Yes,
it pairs up with menopause, because we are losing bone density as we are getting older. And this is the thing, is that menopause doesn't come on its own. It just doesn't come, okay, this is menopause. It comes with aging. So you're having two things to deal with. You're dealing with menopause, but you're also dealing with the regular stuff that aging brings, like bone density loss, and all the other things that happen with aging, joint problems. So they're all playing against each other, and menopause is not the only thing that is working against women at that age. So anything that you could be doing for mitigating age-related problems will help with menopause. So bone density is one of the things, but the more we increase our lean muscle, and the more we put, we have to put pressure, or is it load? We have to load. That's the name I'm looking for. We have to load our muscles. We have to load our joints to protect them and to build them. Yeah, that's the key.
I'm just curious, Wanjira, if you notice any sort of like generational resistance to doing strength training. And I only ask because anytime that I'm going to speak about my mom, sorry if you're listening, Mom, or other women sort of that generation in my family, or that I've known as clients, when they start to gain weight or be concerned about it, they're restricting their calories, they're going for all the walks, they're on the bike. And I know my mom, she never wants to do a squat. I'm like, can you just do some squats? So I just am curious if you notice a generational resistance to building muscle.
Yeah, there's a generational resistance, and I think it's because, and it's not so much with the women now, this generation, it's just slightly a little bit older, where I think they grew up with the image of this big dude in the gym picking up barbells.
Yeah.
And they kind of think that that's what you're telling them to do. They're going to be bulky and walking around, like these huge muscle built dudes. And they resist, and that's why even the women who pick up the weights, they want to pick up 3-pound dumbbells, for the next 20 years. And it's like, no, you pick up more than that in your grocery bags. They weigh more than that. They weigh more than that. And you have to progress, and so you'll hear them say, well, I have 3-pound dumbbells. Okay, how long have you had them? 5 years.
Yeah. They don't want to get bulky.
They don't want to get bulky.
I'm air quoting.
And I keep telling them, first of all, you don't have the testosterone to bulk you up. It's going down. You don't have it to bulk you up. In any way, you should be building up so that you can get a little bit of testosterone, because testosterone does also help protect the muscles and the skin. This skin that kind of drapes out of women as they get older is lack of testosterone. So if they could only understand that, no need for Botox, just lift some weights.
Lift some weights. Oh.
Lift some weights, build a little bit of testosterone.
So many
and
benefits.
Don't have sagging skin, then you'll be fine. Yeah, so there's a lot of resistance.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Dayna's question makes me think too of our next question. Just when you mentioned about not eating as much in order to try to lose weight. I know, Wanjira, I follow you on Instagram, and I love your Instagram. It's so inspiring.
Thank you.
But I know you've talked about that before, that like women, you need to keep eating, because that is important too, right? I think women, again, we just have, generationally been taught to lose weight. We need to really restrict our calories.
Yes.
So how does our nutrition, and I know like stress will play a role in that too. Like, how do all these other lifestyle factors impact our symptoms during menopause?
Yeah. One of the things that women need to understand is that you cannot do what you did in your 20s. You can't get away with that. So, in your 20s, you could eat badly for a week and then go do a few runs on the treadmill and all the weight comes down. Now, the problem is cortisol levels go up. As soon as your cortisol levels goes up, the body will hold on to everything. So you can't run 10 hours on the treadmill. You can't do that anymore. You can't afford it. You can't afford your 20-year-old's workout. What their 20-year-old is doing, you cannot do it, because cortisol levels will go up high. And our body is very bad at managing cortisol and managing stress. As soon as cortisol comes up, insulin also comes up. And insulin coming up means more weight gain. So in trying to lose weight, you'll end up gaining more. Restrictive diet is the same thing. It does the same thing. As soon as you restrict your diet, your cortisol levels, because stress is stress is stress, as they say. The body doesn't know whether it's stress from a lion running after you or it's stress coming from your kitchen. It's the same thing. So as soon as that stress goes up, cortisol goes up, insulin goes up, ghrelin, which is our hunger hormone, goes up, and leptin, which is the hormone that says I'm satisfied, I'm full, goes down. And you gain the weight instead. So we need to eat properly. And one of the things that I find too, it's like the myth about bulking up with weight. I don't know who told people that eating protein will make you bulk up, or that eating protein is bad for your kidneys. So, when you tell them eat protein, they're looking at you like, what?
Eggs got vilified for a long time.
Yeah.
I know. It was wrong to eat eggs. Don't they have a lot of cholesterol?
Yeah.
Well, don't you know cholesterol is what makes your hormones? So just kind of trying to make people understand, eat your protein especially, and eat good food, and eat food that is nutrient dense. And I will die on that hill, and I know many people hate me when I say this, you can't afford sugar in menopause. You just can't. You already have a body that is not being able to deal with insulin from just regular activities, and then you're telling it, oh, here, donut, sugar. You can't afford it. And, people say, yeah, but you don't want to cut food groups. Sugar is not a food group. It's not a food group. And you can afford it maybe before menopause, but you can't afford it in menopause. It's just too expensive for the body. It's too expensive. So eat nutrient-dense food, eat properly, cut out the idea of restrictive diets because they don't work in menopause. Extreme workouts don't work in menopause. Just eat regular, good meals, fill in with fiber, protein, good carbs, good fats, and exercise. 30 to 45 minutes is enough. 3 times a week is enough.
Right.
Yeah. Long walks, long walks, that will do you better than 10 hours on the treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's important. I think it's important for people to hear. I mean, Rhonda and I talk all the time about sort of adjusting workouts, especially to the demands of being a mom and a new mom or mom with young kids, but it's sort of across the lifespan. You have to adjust to what your body requires. And sometimes what we think it requires maybe isn't necessarily what it needs.
Yes. Yeah. And also, when people are in menopause, they're in that sandwich generation. They're trying to help their daughters who may be having young kids, but they are also still looking after aging parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there is
Stress.
so much going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of stress. Yeah. I know this isn't probably your scope, but I'm just curious what knowledge you have on medication and like hormone replacement therapy and that type of thing. I personally don't know a lot about it.
Yeah. So hormone, nowadays they call it menopause hormone therapy. They're trying to get away from hormone replacement therapy because hormone replacement therapy can be for anybody. It can be even for a guy for thyroid issues. So now they're calling it menopause hormone therapy. And a lot of studies have been done. There's a lot of fear about hormone therapy because there was the earlier studies, what they call the SWAN study that was done, where they picked some women and did, studies for quite a while, and those women ended up with breast cancer. But it was a very different study. It wasn't done in the right protocols. Now they've done a lot of studies and they've got more knowledge about it. And some people who are candidates for menopause hormone therapy, it works very well for them. But unfortunately, not every woman is a candidate because there could be so many issues like blood clots or family history of hormone-driven cancers, or even the woman herself may have had a hormone-driven cancer. So she's not a candidate at all for hormone replacement therapy. So for those women who can do it, it works very well. But they say that there is a period when it should be started. It should be started the first 5 years of menopause. After that, it's not too beneficial.
Oh.
So as early as they can start it, the better.
Interesting. I wonder how often that's communicated to people.
Not much. Yeah. The earlier they start, if you're a candidate for menopause hormone therapy, the earlier in your transition they started, the better. The other thing that people don't know is that people in perimenopause still having their periods can also get hormone replacement therapy. Because sometimes the symptoms get so bad that they need to be helped. So they can get hormone replacement therapy even in perimenopause, before menopause. But the idea is that after the age of 60, in menopause, the hormones don't do too much. They don't help a lot. Because one of the big things that they're researching now is brain health and how hormone replacement therapy or menopausal hormone therapy helps with brain health. But after the age of 60, it doesn't seem to have any effect at all. So the earlier, the better.
And I know, sorry, Rhonda, I know a lot of my clients who I see in this postmenopausal area of life, term. They can also have topical vaginal estrogen. And I've often referred clients back for that just to help with some of the pelvic floor strengthening. So if they're having a lot of pain with intercourse from vaginal dryness or urinary incontinence or pelvic organ prolapse symptoms, it can also be applied locally. So I think it's important for people to know.
Yeah. That can be applied locally, and there's no problem even for people who are taking, who are using estrogen as menopause hormone therapy to also use vaginal estrogen. Some doctors do give the two of them. Some doctors give two. Yeah. Unless, of course, they have, a hormone-driven problem like cancer that they cannot take any hormone therapy.
Hormone therapies.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
We're
interesting.
complex.
Yes.
It is quite complex, and unfortunately, we don't have many trained doctors. We don't have doctors trained for menopause, but the American the Menopause Association of America has a whole list of doctors. They even list Canadian doctors who are trained in menopause. So there is a whole list of them, and some of them really are still taking new patients. So women can go there and look for their region, especially if they're in the US or Canada. They don't have, I don't think they have anything else for any other part of the world, but they have Canadian and US doctors who are trained specifically for menopause.
That's good to know.
Do you have any resources that you often will suggest that people read or podcasts to listen to? I know I often pass on the Menopause Manifesto by Dr. Jen Gunter. People
Yes,
like that one.
Yes. Yeah, I normally tell people to read that one because it's easy for people to read.
Yeah.
There's also one that was written by Amanda. What's her? I don't remember the name of the book, but she's Amanda Thibe, and she's also a Canadian, and she wrote I think, what was the name of that?
I know what you're talking about. I'm going to try to Google it.
Amanda Thibe, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, because she talks a lot about strength training with menopause as well, right?
Yes, and she's also a personal trainer. She's a strength coach, and
Menopocalypse.
Yes, menopause. Yeah, and hers is very simple. It doesn't have all the scientific, literature that can sometimes drive any person who isn't interested in science to go a little bit bonkers. So that's a really good resource. And then the American the Menopause Association of is it? I don't forget the American Menopause Organization. Anyway, one of them is quite good. It has a lot of information, and information that's created for the layperson, not for experts. So that's always good. People have to be careful what they find on social media, because sometimes it's like, they're now selling what called menopause diets, and there's nothing like that. There's really absolutely nothing like a menopause diet.
I know.
They're always trying to target women, right?
Always trying to profit.
Always trying to profit off of us.
I know.
I think it's unfortunate. It's because we're not taught this stuff, right? So we're not taught about it. So no wonder we feel confused.
Yes.
And then we're easy targets for all these sales campaigns, right?
Yes, yeah. And they tell women, okay, this is a diet that balances your hormones. Which hormones? There's so many. Which ones are you balancing?
Yeah. It's all very confusing for sure. But maybe we should link those resources in the show notes, because Dr. Jen Gunter also, for our listeners, wrote the Vagina Bible, which I highly recommend as well.
Oh, good.
For this very reason, that a lot of women don't know their basic anatomy.
Yes. And there's also feisty menopause. They're also really quite good. They have very good interviews and podcasts, and a lot of really good articles. Feisty menopause, so that's good too.
Feisty menopause, I like it.
Yeah.
Awesome. This has been amazing, Wanjira. What is one last piece of advice that you would like to share with our listeners?
What I would, one of the things that I really love people to understand is that menopause is natural. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a normal stage of life. I mean, we go through puberty, and menopause is just the other side of puberty. It's exactly, menopause does to a woman's body exactly what puberty does to a girl's body. So it's just, you're just on the other side. It's natural. We never consider puberty to be wrong. It's okay. It's natural. There will be a few bumps on the road, but it does come to an end at some point. And just to normalize menopause, not to fear it, because many women get there with so much fear about it. It's normal. There's nothing to fear about it. And now there's places where people can go for help. They can reach out for help. So nothing to be feared about menopause. That's the key. Yeah.
So optimistic. I love it. Thank you so much, Wanjira. So how can people find you and work with you? Can you tell us a bit about how you work with your clients?
Yes, so I have a membership site, and my membership site has everything. It has the yoga, which is the mindset part of it, strength training. We also do kettlebells, and there's meditation too on it. And then I have a pelvic floor class that I run for 12 weeks. So that's Holistic Core Restore Pelvic Floor Health. And I'll be running one in November. So that's apart from the membership. But then when people get into the membership, they can get everything under one roof. And the way to contact me is through my website. It's just wanjira.com. Or, they can DM me from my Instagram page.
What's your handle? What's your
Studio
handle?
Wanjira. Studio Wanjira.
Yes.
Yeah, Studio Wanjira on Instagram and Studio Wanjira on Facebook. Yeah.
Right.
Love it. You're so motivational and inspirational, Wanjira. Thanks so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. And thank you for all your questions. And I don't know, do you have any other questions for me?
No, I think you answered them all. I think this is so important for us as practitioners, us as women, and any female listeners to hear. That's not something to be feared. And you gave us lots of tips and tricks. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.